Once you've made a batch of your own soap, you may never use store-bought soap again. Soap making is incredibly easy. It's an excellent skill to have after a disaster, if you're homesteading, or just want to pick up a highly addictive hobby. One large batch can provide you, your friends, neighbors, and your friends all the soap you could need for months and months. In this video, I'll make a simple batch of fragrant soap using oil and sodium hydroxide, commonly known as lye. Because there's some chemistry here to get it right, I have done all the calculations for you. Lye is highly corrosive in its pure state and can cause chemical burns, so you will want to wear hand and eye protection and even a mask. I will take you step by step through what you need, the recipe and method, an example of a usable failure, and then a bit of the history on soap, fats, lye. By the end of this video, you'll have a batch that works that you can play around with and tweak however you like. Let's rediscover the soap making process for ourselves. Download the Start Preparing Survival Guide to help you prepare for any disaster. I'll post a link in the description and comments section below, or visit cityprepping.com/get started for a free guide to help you get started on your journey of preparedness. For this recipe, you'll need 8 ounces of lard, 8 ounces of Crisco. Here I'm using what is called new Crisco in that it has palm oil in it. Old Crisco doesn't have that ingredient. 8 ounces of olive oil and 8 ounces of coconut oil. I'm using 1 tablespoon matcha powder, hoping for light green tinge. This initially made my soap a dark brown, but after curing it took on a more green tinge. For fragrance oils, I use 1 total ounce of a combination of tea tree oil, eucalyptus oil, and just a little citronelle oil. You can use whatever oils you like, just keep it to 1 ounce for this recipe. Sodium hydroxide food grade, 4.54 ounces. You could use 100% lye drain cleaner, and many soap makers use just that. I use food grade sodium hydroxide. The only difference between the two is that food grade is tested to make sure it is free of other chemicals or contaminants before you can call it food grade, even though you would never really want to eat this stuff. Drain cleaner doesn't need to be tested in this way. It's probably 99% the same, but it isn't guaranteed. The difference is perhaps minor to non-existent, but I like to know exactly what I'm using, so I use food grade. Distilled vinegar. This isn't for your soap, it's for you. If you get lye dust on your skin, it will burn. Pouring distilled vinegar on the spot will neutralize the burn. Have a bottle handy in case of an emergency. 12.16 ounces of water. Distilled is preferable. You'll also need 1 saucepan to warm the oils, a mixing bowl, and an immersion blender or whisk. I recommend an immersion blender because your results will be better. I also use a temperature gauge and a scale to weigh all ingredients. Your ratios and temperatures must be correct for your soap to come out correctly. I'll also be using an empty milk carton and some standard muffin pans for molding my soap and letting it shape up. With the muffin pans, I do not need to cut my soap. They take longer to harden up completely, and getting them out of the muffin pan can be difficult. Spritzing the pan with isopropyl alcohol or warming it in hot water before trying to remove your soap can help. Here I've cut around it, warmed the pan in hot water, and still had a hard time because the soap had not set up enough on the bottom. This brown sludge is still caustic lye and still needed time. Just this little contact roughened up the skin of my fingertips. I will put these away to harden for even longer. By far the easiest is the milk carton technique. You can tell how hard it is by looking and gently squeezing. When you remove the outer carton, you can cut your bars into the desired size to allow them to continue to harden and cure for 4 weeks on your wire rack. I will need to let the process complete for at least another 48 hours, then remove the carton and cut it into bars. Soap molds are reasonably priced online if you need neatly shaped bars with a more traditional fill. The silicone molds can be also used for baking and other purposes, so they might be a wise investment if you think you'll be doing more than 1 batch of soap in your lifetime. When this process is done, you will want your soap to air cure for at least 4 weeks' time. Then you can use it. This allows the soap to harden and ensures all chemical reactions are complete. Using your soap too early may result in it being too caustic, so do let your soap age for at least 4 weeks after this process is done. The recipe step by step. The first step is to combine all the solid fatty oils into a saucepan. Put the Crisco, lard, and coconut oil over low heat and stir gently until completely liquid. Then add the olive oil and gently stir for an additional 2 minutes until all oils are as one. Pour the oils into your mixing bowl and set aside. Here I should let you know that you want to avoid plastics and aluminum. The reactive process lye generates heat. Thus, you should avoid plastics that may melt. Aluminum is reactive to sodium hydroxide. The reaction produces hydrogen gas, and that is combustible. While that's good information to know if you want to make a Bunsen burner cooker with pieces of aluminum and sodium hydroxide, for this soap making process you will just end up destroying your aluminum. My oil is over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. For this process you want both your lye solution and your oils to be between 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, so I will have to let this come down to temperature. When you do mix, you want both your lye solution and your oils to be within 10 degrees of each other. You don't want to have to heat your lye solution. The chemical reaction between the sodium hydroxide and water will do that for you. You'll need to stir the lye solution to help it come down in temperature, so I start it while I let the oils cool. With safety goggles, gloves, and in a well-ventilated area, begin to slowly add the sodium hydroxide to the water, stirring each time until fully dissolved. You never want to pour the water onto the lye. Mix it slowly into the water. Dumping the lye in can result in a volcanic reaction of a caustic chemical. Use lye carefully. If you've ever worked with super hot chili peppers, it's like that, but instead of just a long burning sensation, you'll actually have chemical burns and searing pain. Practice good safety. I discuss more about lye specifically at the end of the video. I started this inside, but I moved it outside because of the off-gassing. The reaction of the lye with the water will generate heat. When more was mixed, that rose to 155 degrees. When it was all mixed, it hit over 170 degrees. This could do damage to your skin at this point, so you want to, again, practice good safety and maybe do this step without any child involvement. When both your lye solution and your oils are between 120 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit, you're ready to begin mixing. Here too, you use a little at a time. You can see that just putting in a little starts the process. Mix slowly, combining just stirring in short pulses with the immersion blender. The temperature will stay pretty stable at this point. Keep stirring and pulsing until what you have is called trace. This is a slightly pudding-like consistency. Here, it is still too thin. When it starts to thicken and you have a slight trace, add in any fragrance oils and colorants. This will also harden your mix. If you use fresh herbs like lemongrass, sage, lavender flowers, or wood shavings, you'll want to fold those in last. Realize that the high lye ratio can alter the look and feel of your soap, oxidize the ingredients, and give you something other than planned. Here, my super green matcha tea ended up making a brown soap, but the color mellowed to a greener tinge after a few days. In this previous batch of lavender soap, I tried to use lavender flowers. I show you this ugly batch because soap making can go wrong. The flowers turned brown and resembled mouse poop. That's definitely not the look I wanted. When you see flowers mix in your soap bar, it is likely a melt and pour soap. In that case, the lye sapification has already occurred and finished. You are merely reshaping already made soap. This faux lavender soap is still functional once I remove the sapification from the top. It's just not that pretty. I used liquid milk in this batch and probably should have used powder milk. I also probably didn't let it saponify long enough. I should have given it longer than 48 hours or more to set up, especially since I use molds. Also, introducing biological materials like lavender flowers to the caustic sodium hydroxide could have caused problems. Nevertheless, this soap is usable. I'll rinse the goop off, set it on wire rack secure for a month, and then see what I have. It is possible to rebatch failed soaps, though some soap makers are wholeheartedly against that. Despite all your hard work, the point here is that soap can go wrong. You need to practice your formula with the fats you know you will be able to access ahead of time. Once you have a good pudding consistency, pour your soap into the molds you're using. I have a batter funnel I use when I make hot sauce, and it will work excellent for this purpose. I'll link to some of the ingredients and equipment in the comments below. Again, the nice thing about muffin pans is that you end up with a perfectly shaped bar of soap of equal sizes. With the milk carton technique, which some prefer, just pour the soap into the milk carton. After a few days, you can peel away the container and cut it into bars after it is saponified. Wait too long though, and it will be hard to cut. Wait too little time, and it will be too soft. Again, practice makes perfect when it comes to soap making. Finally, you want this to cool slowly. You can put it in a box and put a few towels under it to insulate the heat and reduce its escape rate. Here, I'm using a styrofoam cooler I have. I just placed each mold in there with cardboard separating them, then sealed it up. Leave it alone for at least 24 hours. I'm going to let mine sit, sealed, and untouched for a total of 48 hours. After that, remove your soap from the molds, cut if necessary, and place it on a wire rack to let it air cure for 4 weeks. That's it. Maybe an hour to make and 4 weeks to cure, then you have the best soap money can buy. There are several calculators online for soap making that will take you through the ratios based on the fats and oils you're using. I'll link to a few below, but I would start with this recipe. Maybe leave out the matcha powder and choose an ounce of a different fragrance essential oil, but stick to this recipe. I've done the math for you and guarantee that this recipe will give you a hard, cleaning, conditioning soap that bubbles enough and is creamy enough. The science is hard and takes some practice, so start with this basic recipe if it's your first time so you can avoid some of the failed batches I've made. History, fats, and lye. The use of soap dates back to almost 3000 BC with the ancient Babylonians. The Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian medical document from around 1500 BC, describes combining animal and vegetable oils with alkaline salts to form a soap-like material used for treating skin diseases, as well as for washing. Hardwood ash would be mixed with animal fats and sometimes clay to create a type of soap. One common practice was to run water through the ash from hardwoods. This would strain off a lye-like compound. When that was mixed with animal fats, saponification would occur. Saponification is a process by which triglycerides are reacted with sodium or potassium hydroxide, aka lye, to produce glycerol and a fatty acid called soap. Since even Babylonians didn't even waste a single bit of an animal, it's hard to determine how they would have thought to mix rendered animal fats with lye compounds from wood ash with a bit of water to come up with soap. I will present one theory here that I haven't seen anywhere else. Soap making may have come from animal sacrifice. A fattened animal was burned in a fire. That created the combination of fats and wood ash containing lye. Very likely, the revered sacrificial ashes may have been gathered up, combined with a bit of water, perhaps clay, and soap was born. No one quite knows, and cultures that used every bit of animal weren't likely to waste the fat by mixing it with ash, so that's as good as a theory I present here as any other theory. In more recent history, the English began making soap during the 12th century. Commercial soap making started in American colonies in 1607 with the Jamestown colony. It was not a retail industry as much as it was a necessary household chore in America. Today, soap making has become a hobby and side business for many who have relearned this skill. Fats. If the idea of rubbing your body down with soap made from animal fats repulses you, know that you probably already have. Check the ingredients. If your favorite soap has sodium tallowite in it, then it has been made with rendered fats obtained from slaughterhouses. Several name brand soaps have this ingredient. Using lard or excellent clean tallow will take your soap to a whole new level. It will be more skin nourishing, and it will lather and clean better. If you have a farm where you process your animals and make your tallow, you absolutely should learn this skill. If you hunt and process the fat, you should know this skill as well. Then keep some sodium hydroxide in your inventory. Soap will be a tradable commodity if the grid goes down for an extended period. Any fatty oil will work, but different oils will have different results with regard to hardness, cleaning ability, conditioning, bubbles, lather, and creaminess. Most people don't use vegetable oil because the actual mixture of oils may be unknown, so getting the right lye concentration may be difficult. The fatty acids are linoleic, oleic, stearic, palmitic, lauric, and mesteric. Different oils and fats have different quantities of those. These medium-chain fatty acids will react slightly differently when lye is used, and all tallow soap lacks 4 of these fatty acids. The result would be soap with almost no cleaning or bubbling aspects. All coconut oil soap lacks 2 of these fatty acids and would be great except for the fact that it wouldn't condition your skin at all. Plus, in a grid-down situation, you may find it easier to access rendered fats from hunting than you would to harvest it out of coconuts. So you should practice making soaps with different types of oil combinations. Get familiar with the process and results, then focus on a soap recipe based on the oils and fats you could access after a grid-down situation. Lye. Lye is harmful because it's caustic. If it can create saponification of fats, it can do the same to the fats in your body. Don't eat soap, obviously, and handle all chemicals with caution. Once the chemical reaction of saponification is complete and the soap is cured, the caustic nature is significantly reduced. Otherwise, you wouldn't be rubbing it on your body. As it is soap, though, it can still sting if you get it in your eyes. It is still harmful if ingested. Still, lye is used in some food making processes. I can guarantee that you have used soap from lye or some even more dangerous chemical, so don't fear the lye. Just take proper precautions when using it in its refined state. There really is no substitute for lye in this process, though there are some methods for using plants rich in saponins, but those are harmful to fish in high concentrations and much more challenging to extract, formulate, and use properly. All that being said, you have to be super careful working with lye. Wear gloves, wear eye protection, mix slowly into the water. Don't dump the water on the lye, or you might have a volcanic reaction. If you've ever worked with super hot chili peppers, the burn is like that, but you'll have actual chemical burns and searing pain instead of a long burning sensation. Practice good safety. Having some sodium hydroxide or lye in your prepping inventory can be valuable for making cleaning agents like soap. Understanding how to make soap is a critical skill that builds your knowledge base and equips you with a tradable product long into any grid down situation. Just basic hygiene can significantly increase your odds of survival. There are other uses for sodium hydroxide, perhaps a topic of another future video, but for now, give this basic recipe a try. Let me know in the comments below how it turned out for you. I read many of the comments and respond to them when I can, as typically within the first hour of releasing a video. I can notify you when other videos become available if you take the step to subscribe to this channel. As always, stay safe out there.